Since launching Project PA earlier this year, we've received countless calls from you, our viewers, who want to share their stories.
That's right, and tonight we introduce you to the Bolzans, a family who moved to Pennsylvania to get treatment for their teenage son. Now, they claim that they're caught in a medical nightmare and fear children and youth could take away custody of their son. Here's Brian Sheehan.
In October of last year, Connie and Ray Bolzan uprooted their family from New Jersey and settled here in York County. We met them on two separate occasions over the course of the past 2.5 months.
We thought we were doing the right thing for Alex so that he can start making the progress that the area of New Jersey we were living in didn't afford him.
It was Connie's idea to move here, but she says that idea and ultimate decision turned their lives into a living hell.
An absolute nightmare, the worst decision, the worst thought I ever presented to my family.
That's because the Bolzans fear Alex won't be with them for much longer.
York County Children and Youth have found that we are child abusers before there's even a final outcome of anything, and they have put us on the Pennsylvania State Registry now.
What are you doing there?
This is Alex.
Good.
Alex was diagnosed with autism when he was about 27 months old.
Now 16, he also suffers from a long and well-documented list of medical conditions. Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
Good. The Bolzans have been under investigation by York County Children and Youth since February. Alex had been at a local hospital for about a month and a half at that point. He was weak, couldn't walk, and wasn't appearing to gain weight, even though he had a feeding tube.
And I just kept saying, well, where's the diagnosis? What are we doing? He's laying here in bed. I could do this at home, let him lay in bed.
Connie says the hospital couldn't come up with a concrete diagnosis, but her mother's instinct told her something else was going on, so she called in a second opinion.
We asked to see specialists for our son just to get an opinion, because now we're like, we still don't have an answer. What's going on? And I was presented with a behavior agreement.
A behavior agreement is a form that if Connie signed would give the hospital control over Alex's treatment plan. But she didn't sign the form and says that's when she thinks someone made that initial call to Children and Youth Services.
You take your child in for health care and they turn things around, and next thing you know, you're being investigated.
This is out of it's Children Youth Services. Right. I have a paper here for Alexander.
Connie captured the moment the county constable served them with the papers weeks after the investigation got underway.
We were charged with, someone phoned in, malnutrition and medical neglect.
They enlisted the help of local attorney Alina Ducharme.
CYS has basically said, we don't agree with your choice to take the child to a second doctor, and we should now get involved to make those decisions for you.
The Bolzans say they also learned there was a possibility Alex could be placed into foster care. That realization was too much for Connie to bear.
He would never survive. He would give up the will to live. I would give up the will to live.
In April, the couple was ordered to appear before a judge for the first part of their dependency hearing.
From my perspective, it didn't go as well for CYS as they anticipated. I thought we left that hearing with some confidence that this hearing would go, that this dependency proceeding would go well for my clients.
It's scheduled to continue later this summer. But just days after the first hearing, the Bolzans were met with a major setback.
So, what happened next? Part 2 of our story airs Thursday night at 11 o'clock.
Now, we don't mention the hospital by name, but you did talk to the hospital?
I did, and the Bolzans were very clear. They wanted the hospital to comment on why they made that initial call, but the hospital told me that due to federal laws on patient privacy, they're not legally allowed to comment on the case.
So they essentially, they just can't defend these actions as to why they thought CYS could be called because of like HIPAA rules, things like that?
Yeah, that is exactly right. It's just as simple as HIPAA rules. They're not allowed to do it federally, so they cannot defend themselves. So this case is far from over, so we'll keep you posted on everything as it moves through the system. But again, part 2 airs Thursday night at 11 o'clock.
Stay on top of it for us, Brian.
Absolutely, we'll keep you posted.
Appreciate it.
Connie and Ray Bolzan have been under investigation by York County Children and Youth since earlier this year. Their 16-year-old son, Alex, has several medical conditions, including autism. In our first story, we told you they rushed Alex to the hospital in February after he suffered a medical emergency. They were unhappy with the diagnosis and wanted to seek a second opinion. That's when they were charged with medical neglect. After hiring a local attorney to represent them at a dependency hearing in April, the Bolzans felt confident their case was going well. But then a major setback.
York County Children and Youth have found that we are child abusers before there's even a final outcome of anything, and they have put us on the Pennsylvania State Registry now.
The Department of Human Services oversees CYS. An agency spokesperson tells Project PA the county CYS administrator and youth solicitor have the power to indicate an individual, or in this case, couple, as suspected child abusers after reviewing the child abuse report. The Bolzan's attorney, Alina Ducharme, says it's a completely separate process than the dependency hearing.
In my mind, if you're not making progress in the dependency area, then you can go around the second strategy and still punish the Bolzans for what you think they should or should not have been doing.
CYS is legally allowed to indicate the Bolzans, or anyone else for that matter, as potential child abusers before the judge makes a ruling on the dependency hearing. And the appeal process can be long and costly.
It seemed retaliatory, and it's frustrating that you think that you can make progress in this system, but it seems as though when you do make progress, there's always kind of a step back.
Ducharme says she told officials CYS made their case for medical neglect and abuse based on partial medical information since the Bolzans only moved to Pennsylvania late last year. Nearly 2 decades of Alex's medical records were back in New Jersey.
If there was abuse in the past, the numerous doctors and the primary care physician who's seen this child from a very young age would have picked up on it.
Connie and Ray say the indicated status is embarrassing and devastating.
Jarring and numbing, and just what part of my world wasn't falling apart, just crushed.
They didn't get their way on the first hearing, and it's a continuance, and now they're going to ante up, make it harder.
While both hearings are still tied up in the legal system, Connie and Ray finally got Alex a second opinion a few weeks ago at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia.
It appears that there's a whole different diagnosis, that there is a different issue, not just the malnutrition and not the low weight gain.
And Alex is improving.
His spirit is his old self. He's much better.
Ray sees the difference in his son over the past few weeks. He can't help but think what would have happened if his wife didn't seek that second opinion.
A mom's instinct is irrefutable. You cannot fight a mother's instinct.
Connie and Ray, they saved their child's life by getting a second opinion.
They're hopeful they'll win their court battles later this summer. What happens after that, though, remains uncertain. But there's one thing Connie knows for sure.
The American people have to learn to get their voice back. And I'm going to take whatever CYS keeps bringing, because I know I've done nothing wrong. And I think it's time some people start pushing back.
This story is far from over. It's unique and very complex, but we've been in contact with the Bolzans throughout much of the process, and we'll keep you posted on their progress. For Project PA, I'm Brian Sheehan.